Hello again. Today we're going to go through setting up custom indexes and a way to filter data based on Splunk Connect for syslog. So this is using the syslog parser to send to a custom index apart from the defaults and also filter out some data. So we start with a SSH session into the Splunk Connect for syslog machine. So if we look at the directory we're in, it's opt SC4S local context, and inside that directory is where all the files live. So we're going to focus on a couple of files for this one. So the first file we'll look at will be the Splunk metadata.csv. So what that will do is use that file to configure custom indexes and custom events, for example. So if we look inside this file, at the moment by default it will be empty. So if we cat that file, there's nothing in there. So now we'll go in there and edit that file and just add the custom setup that we would like to do. So as I say, it's blank at the start. There's examples here I'll add to the description, so if you want to take this text and put it into your file you can. But essentially we're going to reroute some Cisco events. So if you want to look at my other video for setting up Splunk Connect for syslog and a Splunk node on the same node, or one node wonder, just check that other video out. But here we're just going to route the Cisco ASA data from that example, and we're going to set the custom index to main. So instead of going to net firewall, which is the default, we're going to force the Cisco data to go to main. This is arbitrary, you can choose what you'd like. And then just for fun, we're going to change the source to mycisco ASA as opposed to the default as well. So just a couple of examples to give you an idea of how this works. So if we search inside Splunk for now, you'll see we've got the net firewall, which is the default. So this is going to show us the data coming in from that Cisco device, showing in Splunk. All the fields are extracted down the left hand side, you'll see. So if we look at the index it's coming into at the moment, I'll just add that to favorites, and it's coming into net firewall. So as I say, with the config we have in the other screen, that's going to change that setting to main. And also the source type is Cisco ASA, which will stay the same, but the source at the moment is SC4S, and that will change to mycisco ASA as per the file behind. So we just save this file in nano now. So that's Control and X to start with, and then just Y to accept that change. And if we cat the file this time, you'll see that's inside there is the contents that we've saved. So if we just cat that file, it's now got the contents in there. So for these changes to take effect, we need to restart Splunk Connect for syslog. So we restart the systemd service. So we use systemctl restart SC4S. This is dependent on what you've called it in the systemd file. So the default script that I showed you in the other video uses SC4S. So if we use status now, we'll just make sure that it's running, and we should see those same two test events being sent successfully. So just towards the bottom here, you'll see that the two test events were successfully sent to main. And if we flick back to Splunk and run our search, we'll see the data's actually stopped coming in this index now, so it's not coming into net firewall anymore. Those events are older. So we'll just change our search to include main. So they say the default is net firewall from Splunk Connect for syslog, but we're actually going to just search and include main now. So if we go up to the search bar and then have an OR index equals main. I'll say this was just arbitrary for the demo. You can choose whatever index you want, and we're going to run the search now, and you see there's now two indexes. So we've got index equals main and net firewall. And if we look at those events over time, and just reduce the time frame just the last few minutes because we've only been doing that, you see towards the end the index changes over. So if we just reduce it to the last 5 minutes to give you a clearer picture, you'll see up to this point it's going into net firewall, and then switch over where we restarted, and now it's coming in on main. Like I say, that was just an example of where to put it. I wouldn't recommend it goes into main. It's probably better to have a custom index, especially for firewalls, but just to show you what's possible. and we'll see the events coming in here. So mixed up in main now we have the Splunk Connect for syslog events, so the internal events, but also the Cisco ASA events. So if we just choose that one source type, you'll see the source is also now mycisco ASA, which is what we set in that file before. Like I said, these are just arbitrary values. You choose whatever makes sense for you. But because we kept the source type the same, which is the key thing, all of the fields are still extracted. So looking at the actions, usernames and those kind of things are all still valid. If we just plot that over time, you'll see now it's been running for a couple of minutes, so you can see that change a bit clearer as to when we switch the indexes over. So if we go now here, we're going to, in the same directory, so we're in local context, but this time what we're going to do is exclude a host. So we're going to use the filters within Splunk Connect for syslog to basically dev null, throw away some events with a specific host name. So to do that we use a couple of files. So this one we use a CSV file, but you also have a comp file, which is vendor product by source. So these two files work in tandem. You have to edit both for it to work. So we'll start just by putting the information in for the filter. So if you, again, this will be in the description, but if you just copy the text from below, if you want to follow this step by step. So we're going to edit the CSV file first. So this is the same format, comma separated values as the other one. The key parts here is the F is kind of the convention that you have for a filter. So F underscore something is a filter, and it's called null Q. And then we're going to set the field of vendor product, so that's what we're going to change, and we're going to change that to null Q. So when Splunk Connect for syslog sees that, it's going to basically null Q it or throw it away, so it won't turn up in Splunk at all. So now if we just cat this file just to check it's taken, so now we have our line. Now we'll edit the comp file, so this is vendor product by source.conf as opposed to the CSV. You can tell, or just make sure you're in the correct file. CSV is obviously comma separated. The comp file requires JSON formatted text. So if we just paste this in to here, so you see the filter, we've used the same filter name, so F null Q, those two must match between the two files because that's the key between the two files. And then we're just going to choose this host. There are many ways to do some filters, and I'll show you a more complex one after this. But just for this example, we'll just use a host name. So that's our main firewall in the demo events. So once we save this file, or those two files combined, we'll join forces and throw away this host. So now we just also need to restart Splunk Connect for syslog just to get that those changes to take again. So we just restart Splunk Connect, and again just do a status just to make sure it's come back up. It's good to do the status because if you've made an error in your config files, then it sometimes won't start back up. So that's the easiest way to check. So again, you see there's two successful events now have come into Splunk, have been accepted by the Splunk node. So now if we run our search across here, you'll see that that 12.1 host will start to fade away in our events, and also the event count will reduce because that's our main firewall. So we've gone from a few hundred events down to a couple here. You'll see the tower start to reduce. So that was our last full push from that host. So just refresh the search as the data comes in, and you'll see it starting to fade away there where Splunk Connect has thrown away the events to dev null. So if you want to exclude a host or a specific piece of text within an event, for example, you can do that using these filters. So I'll show you a more complex one shortly, but this is just a simple one to get your head around it. So you'll see these start to tail off in the chart over time. So you see now there's some internal events from 127, but the 12.1 address has completely disappeared from our chart. So success. So I do have another video on setting up a single node, which is what I'm using here just for the demonstration. So if you want to have a look at that video, feel free. So now we'll get into the broad filter a little bit now. So instead of having just one host excluded, what we're going to do is filter out some keywords within the events. So this is our filter from before. It's the same file, vendor products, but we're going to add this one here. So this time we're going to look for within the message the word discarded, or the message deny, or ASA-6. So any of those, if any of those are present within an event, then Splunk Connect for syslog will basically dev null or throw that event away. It won't even go through into Splunk. So again, we just restart Splunk Connect just to take those changes, double check it's came back up, and here we have the status of successful, so that's a good sign again. And then if we do a little search here, we should see the event count again drop even further, right? So we're dropping specific text here. So 12.1 will come back because we actually removed the filter to get rid of that one. But what will start to happen is the device ASA-6 will stop coming into Splunk. It will be dropped there. So we'll just reduce the time frame to look at the more recent events to show the new filter. So you see we've got Cisco ASA and Cisco firewall there. We can see the events are still being extracted, so we've got the fields. So the format of the event is still there, and if you're using another a seam on top to look for common values like users and blocked firewalls and those kind of things, then they will still work. But what you'll notice in the events themselves, say just as the filter takes place, is these things will start to drop away. So you can see the event count has dropped down quite a lot. And also if we look at the raw events themselves, you'll see there's no Cisco ASA-6 in these events anymore. They're -2, -3, -4, but there's no -6 in here anymore because that was one of the things we told it to throw away. So again, another successful filter. So these are quite basic examples, but once you get the idea of it, I've had lots of questions on how to do this from customers and partners. So just a quick way to be able to sort this out. Hopefully that was useful. So check out my other videos for more Splunk Connect information.